viewers, let's go on a bit of a tour of the M7 that's released for Train Simulator Classic. And let's learn how to set it up and drive and shut it down. Alright, up on the left hand side here we've got our emergency brake valve. You can also just whack the backspace. The other things that are active here is the headlight control and the marker lights. So let's go ahead and turn our headlights on to dim and our marker lights off. And outside we've got white lights now. You may remember there were red lights on there before. We can turn on the backlight for our gauge lights. That only affects the analog brake gauge down here. We can turn on our cab ceiling light on and off if we wish, and we can turn on our windscreen wipers and turn them off again. The other button that's active is the charge button for the brakes, and I'll cover that in a moment. On the desk, we've got our analog brake gauge. White is the brake pipe, which is currently not charged at all, and red is the brake cylinder, which is currently at the maximum pressure. We have the horn lever, the alerter acknowledge stick, and the buzzer, conductor's buzzer, guard's buzzer, whatever. We have got our reverser, our master controller, which is both throttle and brake, and we've got our key. Master key. Behind them we've got the display unit for ATC and Axis. ATC stops you running up the bum of other trains because this system allows multiple trains into the same signalling block at the same time, and it governs your speed. It will actually control your speed by braking if it needs to. Axis, on the other hand, is looking at civil things like curves and crossovers and bridges and the like, so it sets a speed limit. We'll go into this display more in the driving tutorial. Then we have our two digital displays, left and right. Left side is about the train status, right side is about the driving. So on the right hand side, we have a bunch of controls that don't actually do anything for our PA and radio and some bypassing controls and the like. None of those actually do squat. All right, let's start her up. First up, we want to turn the master key. Well, first up, let me show you, these controls are all locked at the moment. So once we put the master key in, our displays wake up. We can bring our reverser into the forward position. No, we can't, because it's interlocked with the master controller. So let's bring that out of emergency brake, and we'll bring this into the forward position. Now, the first thing to note is you can't get back into emergency brake with the controller when you're not in the key out position. This is quite deliberate, and it was done after feedback that it was way too easy to get into an emergency brake situation with keyboard controller and the rail driver. So very pleased to see that. Anyway, let's pop the HUD up because we want to bring this thing into max brake, which is the furthest position. We want to charge the brakes up so that we can get our brake pipe charged up, which you can see here on the analog gauge or here on the digital gauge. And you'll notice our brake cylinder pressure and the red needle over here match as well. You can either press the semicolon key or you can press the charge button. I like pressing buttons in the cab, so I'm pressing the button. And we'll see that charge up. You want to get it up to about 130 or so. Nearly there now. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is our safety systems. Now, right now, ATC is turned on and it's telling me I'm allowed to go 15 miles an hour. And that there's no track speed set at the moment because I'm in a siding, which probably means I have to go 10 or 5, depends on where you are. Right now I can tell it's 10 because the HUD's telling me that, but you need to learn the route. You need to know where the speed limits are. So ATC is currently turned on. We've also got Axis turned on. Now, we mentioned that before. Now, there's another safety system that you can turn on and off. So that's the alerter. So if I do Control and Enter, that will turn that on. And what that basically means is it starts a timer, and every 25 seconds the alert is going to go off, and I have to acknowledge it with the Q key or by using the stick. Now, every time I touch either the master controller, the stick, or the horn, that timer will reset and you get another 25 seconds. Now, the other things that you can turn off ATC, automatic train control, if you want to. I wouldn't. Control Shift Enter turns it off, and you can see that we're now in ATC bypass on the top right hand side of that display unit. Let's turn it back on, because if you haven't got it on, This route allows multiple trains into the same signalling block, and you'll just end up running up the bum of another train. That's going to hurt, isn't it? And then if you do left alt shift and enter, you can turn axis on and off. So it turns on and off the enforcement. You notice how display's back on there. All right, what about driving? Well, that's actually remarkably easy. So I can't go very fast here, so we know we're down at 10, but I'm going to show you what happens. So come back to coast and then put some power on. Now I want to show you what happens if you go too fast. So let's deliberately do that. So I'm now going too fast. I'm getting an overspeed. Can't just acknowledge it, because look what happens. Penalty brake. And if I just go back into the coast position, I've already acknowledged it, I can now drive again, because I'm not overspeed anymore. So that's all you have to do, is just go back to coast, push the button. Now, if you're overspeed and you need to slow down, the train will already be slowing you down, and it won't release the brakes until it does. So there's the alerter. So let's give that a crack. So let's get overspeed, and our speed zone's going to go up to 15 soon. There we go. And let's put it back into coast and acknowledge. It's putting the brakes on. Acknowledge, acknowledge. There we go, it's released them. Because I've gotten back below 10 again. So the train will actually brake for you. It will brake for you. So all you need to do is put it in a coast. You can also put it into a braking position if you want to. And just reiterating, you can't get to emergency brake with this handle. Backspace or yank the red thing. All right, now what about shutting down? First up, you need to go into key out on the reverser, then into the emergency position on the master controller. And you notice you can get into emergency in key out. And then you just turn it off. And if you turned any headlights on, you want to put your marker lights back on because you're parking the train, and turn the headlights to off. And if you had windscreen wipers, you turn them off too. Well, that's it for our introductory tutorial of setting up and shutting down the train. And I'll do another one for driving, because there's a little bit to it. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If it has, let me know in the chat. If you've got any questions, drop them below into the comments. And if you liked the video, give it a like, thumbs up, and subscribe if you're not already. Thanks a lot. See you later.